Do it again. Sadie, you're a long-time performer. You're a sex educator. You're a sexpert. You are a multisexual actress. How came feminism in your life?
Well, I am lucky enough that I grew up with feminism in the home. My mom is a feminist, and she's very much kind of white American second wave feminist style. So not my brand of feminism, but through her, I got introduced to the words, some of the basic ideals and the value system that women matter, that actually gender is not a determinant of intelligence or value or any other specific thing.
And when you came to porn, you always had this feminist thing in mind, that you really want to represent it or show that gender is no question, or...
Yeah, I mean, I think that I started doing sex work out of a deep internal sexual curiosity, but I started when I was 19, and I already considered myself a feminist, and I also went to all-girls school, and the value of strong womanhood, which it was the 90s, so that's how these things were termed, was deeply instilled in me at that time. So even when I was doing my first jobs in sex work, which were working at strip clubs, I was trying to figure out how to fit these two parts of myself together, my feminist values and beliefs, and also activities, as well as my curiosity and interest and value of sex and broad sexuality and sex workers' rights. And so it was like through discovering the work of Carol Queen and Annie Sprinkle and Jill Nagel and Scarlett Harlot and a lot of the sex positive feminist queer sex workers of the San Francisco area, from kind of like the generation before me, these two aspects of my life and interest set that people were actively telling me didn't fit together, kind of clicked. So by the time I started performing in porn, there was kind of a gradual transition between being a nude and erotic photography model to doing video work. But it was in the early to mid aughts. It wasn't that I sought to make feminist porn from the outset, but I sought to make porn as a feminist.
I understand.
So when this kind of queer porn mini explosion hit San Francisco just 1 or 2 years after I moved there, I felt like I was really in the right place in the right time to have some of my ideals and values meet my work and my interests and my also kind of like joy in sexual exploration.
And now you really show a lot of different sexualities in your film. It's really from ejaculating, as Sadie Mazo. But also the great orgasms. There are a lot of really typical things for you where we always recognize you. And I think that's amazing, and always asked me, is it also a development that you explored your sexuality during making this porn, or is it parallel, or how do you...
I would say a lot of it is parallel. I had a lot of sexual exploration and development probably from the end years of living in Baltimore. So that was like when I was in my early 20s through the the 10 years that I lived in San Francisco. And that was like a really rich time for my understanding of the broad expanses of my own sexuality, both regarding like sex work was really, really informative and educational in that way, because I got to experience and kind of try on a lot of other people's sexualities in ways that I wasn't being judged, because I was being asked to help facilitate their desires, their interests. But it was really varied, more so than you could get from, you know, like even having quite a few partners. And so I got to try a lot of things that I either had stigma myself against, or it didn't appeal to me at first, or I had no idea how I felt about it. And plenty of those things I came to adopt into my own kind of sexual universe, because I was like, oh, now that I'm with someone who really is into this, I get why you would be so into this. Like, and so that was really helpful. And then the queer scene and the BDSM scene is also where I kind of learned a lot, and also learned the potentials of like I taught myself how to squirt in my late 20s.
And also these big orgasms.
Yeah, that came from more maybe my early to mid 20s also, but finding my voice and feeling kind of entitled to explore that was huge for me, as far as both the physical sensations of like the depth of pleasure possible within my body, as well as potential spiritual aspects of sexuality and orgasm. And so like I wasn't that orgasmic until probably my early 20s, maybe right before I left San Francisco. And then I really figured out and again kind of like taught with a lot of help and inspiration myself how to have many sequential orgasms, and really, really big, powerful ones. And let's see, what else?
No, I just remember when Linda Williams was here, you know, like she is the queen of porn studies, and she was so amazed by your orgasms.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and she said,
That's
well,
nice.
and she was like, wow, finally she saw something what is really the visibility of female orgasms.
Oh, interesting.
And I was,
wow.
I was
That's
also
very
like,
sweet.
yeah, and I was happy to deliver it to her with you and your films and really your presence. It's really like a big potential. You can see it, you can feel it, and it's great.
It's funny because, you know, for a really long time, like over a decade, I always wanted to be like this hot femme porn performer that everyone thought was really beautiful and sensual, and I would see the way that other people performed, and they look so pretty when they're fucking, and like so, you know, like tasty, and I was like raw and wild and crazy,
but there is the power.
And for so many years I was like, God damn, like why, like I appreciate it from the inside when it's happening, but to watch yourself, I'm like, oh my God, seriously? Do I have to be that one always?
Well, maybe this is authentical.
Well, the thing is, and then when, you know, at Porn Film Festival and things like, and when I was in front of an audience also watching my films, if I would come, like every time there's a huge burst of laughter in the audience. And at one point, on the one hand, I can really appreciate that, because I mean, humor is a big part of my kind of coping mechanism of life. And on the other hand, I was like, why do I always have to be the comic relief in the porno?
It's not only the comic, because laughter, it's also like an appreciation of your orgasm. It's opening the mouth, you know, it's
I think it's also a release, you know?
Yes.
And
so it's like solidarity, they are with you, you know? I really can tell you because I did a lot of research about laughter.
Yes,
it is like orgasms. And I always see it as an appreciation and solidarity. It's like feminist power. Yeah, come on, we go with you. It's great.
That's a nice perspective to have on it. It doesn't always feel good to me in the moment, but sometimes it does. And the older I get, what I wanted to say is that the older I get, the more I appreciate that even though, you know, I have never been kind of this type that I used to aspire to, now I can at least appreciate that
you
I've
have
been
your own
myself.
style.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly. And
that's
that
wonderful.
like the skills and the tools that I have at my disposal through my body and my feelings and my brains and my voice, that like I feel like I've put them to good use.
Very
at
good.
least.
So when you look back in the last 10, 20 years also on the feminist porn scene, what would you say from your own development and also what you see in the development of the queer feminist scene?
I think it's become, first of all, much more international and widespread. It's become much more intersectional, which is really beautiful. So there's a lot more emphasis on performers of color, trans, non-binary, and genderqueer performers, fat performers, some older performers, performers with disabilities, and just basically a much broader performer pool, as well as creator pool of people who are taking both their aesthetic, their sexual, and their political interests and kind of combining them for a much broader reach of representation as far as whose sexualities we get to see. And that's really great. And on the other hand, I feel like the scene has become much more disparate. Like when I lived in San Francisco, it was mostly like 3 main companies, and there was really a regional tight scene around that. And now everything is it's a lot of based on a lot of performers making their own work, which is like a transition that I never made because technology has advanced so much. I mean, when I was performing, it was still like it would be like an all queer cast, but then some straight cis guy with a camera this big, like lugging it.
Well, they had to have muscles.
Yeah, absolutely. And also be trained in those specific cameras. You know, that used to be a schooling system, not a YouTube tutorial. Yeah. You know, and so that's changed a lot. So there are a lot more, I feel like, cameras and editing done by performers themselves. But it also requires an aspect of tech competency that not every performer has or feels comfortable with. So that's changed a lot. Is like both the access and availability of technology, but then also kind of the expectation that it's easy or something, and that everyone should and can be able to just make their own work. Yeah, exactly.
Do I weigh? Yeah.
And I think that,
Yeah, so when you see now the Feminist Porn Award, we are over 10 years now, we are in Charlottenburg, we have older people, like you say, more older people, like Morgana Muses is coming, we have Nana Joyner who did the first films with black women, there are trans people, so we have a lot. Do you think it's still necessary that we have feminist porn?
Yeah, because just because something has been happening for a while or has been spreading, it doesn't mean that the world knows about it yet or has understood the relevance. I mean, honestly, I really find porn, probably along with advertising, to be one of the biggest visual culture makers, and then, you know, movies and TV. But around also ideals of beauty, around sexuality, what we do, what is normal, what is desirable, and what is not, and also, you know, who fits in the sexy category. And just over the last 2 to 3 years, I feel like I've seen that who fits into the sexy category kind of explode in a bigger, not fully mainstream, but in that direction. That's certainly not exhaustive. It's not like, you know, every kind of body, every kind of person is representative, or represented. But I think that I feel like the bigger culture is just starting to kind of catch up with feminist and queer porn around ideals of pleasure and who is entitled to pleasure and what the politics behind that are. And, you know, like remembering that sexuality has been used for centuries as a primary tool of oppression by governments, by religions, by so many, by capitalism, exactly, by so many kind of hierarchies of oppression, authoritarians, and that it's still vital as long as sexuality is used as a tool to oppress others. It's still very vital and a space of resistance to work with sexuality and to continue to kind of like unknot that small space of who's allowed to be sexual, who's allowed to appreciate their sexuality, how long into like what ends. And so I think that it's still important. I think it's also important that things like feminist porn awards change and adapt and grow and keep up with the growing, like basically feminist porn awards is not just about congratulating a community within an industry. It's a political movement and a political action. And I think it's also very necessary for it to continue because the politics of the time are kind of like growing and expanding and getting stretch marks very quickly these days. And that all needs to be celebrated, you know, from within, whether or not it's recognized from without.
Yeah. Well, perfect. So we see you at the 16th October in 2021. It's in 3 weeks. And we are really happy to join you all, and especially you, Sadie. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks so much.